Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Yes, I know it's been a while, and I'll get to why I was out for such a long time. But first things first, I wanted to say thank you for everybody that was reaching out with comments and concerns, thinking, stuff that went away. But, I had some personal issues going on with me recently, in and out of the hospitals, unfortunately. Then stuff before that stuff was really ramping up with work. I had recorded some stuff in between what I put out last and now. And then stuff kind of got in the way, life got in the way. And then by the time I got to sit down and edit it, the information kind of became irrelevant. So I guess I'm coming at you here. We're going to talk some NBA. I guess my full first episode of strictly NBA, unfortunately, just is now, but better late than never. Okay, so we'll be talking some conference final action. And some stuff that I think that's going to happen going down in the NBA Finals, man. But before we get all that, I'd like to say thank you guys for watching in, and go ahead and hit that like button down at the bottom. Hit the subscribe button if you're new, and make sure you give me a nice retweet or share, and that really helps me get this product in front of more people. So I really appreciate that. And before we get into some information, man, first things first. This is another great episode of Oh Brother the Podcast. And I'm, of course, your host, Coop, man. Let's get right into it. Last night, we saw the New York Knicks, orange and blue skies, baby. They went ahead and swept the Cleveland Cavaliers 4-0 in the conference finals. The Knicks put a hurting on the Cavaliers in this series for the most part. I'm going to get to the New York Knicks in a second, but I do want to harp on these Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Granted, most of us didn't think they was going to get past Detroit in 7 games. They were wore down coming into this series, and then you're up 22 points in game 1 and slowly give that lead away. On the road, you have all the momentum on your side. You're about to sneak one out and steal one of the first 2 away games for Cleveland. And then you let Jalen Brunson go one-on-one with James Harden, and Shamet hits a couple of threes, Mikal Bridges hits a 3, and next thing you know, that 22-point lead disappears in game 1. And from there on, the Cleveland Cavaliers continue to fold like hot laundry out of the dryer. But what does that mean for Cleveland going forward? Well, for starters, James Harden has a $42 million player option that he can opt into for next season. But I'm sure he was traded for and brought in because he was promised more dollars and years on his current deal. I'm sure of that. Plus, you have Donovan Mitchell, who's due a $200 million extension, or can negotiate for one because he's now an all NBA player again, once again, made 13 this year. And then you have Evan Mobley, will be next year starting the first year of his 4-year, $200+ million contract as well. So the Cavaliers, you're coming off a season now where you had the most expensive roster in the NBA, and unfortunately you fall short in the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, partially, I feel like that is due to not only the play of said superstars, but they ultimately got out coached as well. Kenny Atkinson, with some of the replies and rebuttals here in his post game interviews, just seemed like he's not really a leader of men, because if you look at this game 4 and game 3, really, the effort and energy on defense and the shooting prowess of the Cleveland Cavaliers just did not come to fruition at all for them. And then when you respond to that with, well, we're beating them in 2 out of 3 games when it comes to the analytics, who cares, bro? You're not beating them 2 out of 3 on the scoreboard, which ultimately matters. You got to score more points than them. Who gives a damn about analytics? And that's my problem with some of the coaching in today's NBA. We lean too heavily on analytics and what is the best thing to do, and we've taken the great minds out of basketball. Sometimes the game is just simple. My guy is bigger, stronger, and faster than yours. Why not just give him the ball and let him beat your defender? Sometimes it's just as simple as that, especially when we see the talents of, some of the best players in the league. But to harp back on James Harden, outside of his prime in Houston, it's been hard to defend him as a player with his playoff performances. We've now seen that it's probably a quarter of his playoff games where he either has more turnovers than field goals made, or he shoots below 35%. This is not the James Harden that we've come to know and love over the years. The guy who was a 3-time scoring champion, 2-time assist leader, and an 11-time All-Star and multiple-time All-NBA caliber player, future Hall of Famer, dominant, revolutionary scorer, step back king. This is not the type of performance that we've come to know for him in clutch moments in the playoffs. When you need to get the job done, James Harden fails to show up in the playoffs. And it's unfortunate for me because I am a fan. Truly am a fan for him for his days and thankful for his time in Houston because he brought the team to new heights that we haven't seen in quite some time. But honestly, sometimes I feel bad for him because since he's left Houston, he's not only wanted to be the second option, but he's been propelled to being the first option because the other guys around him have failed to show up outside of this past season with Kawhi Leonard. Okay, it didn't look like he was going to make the playoffs. The Clippers ultimately did not make the playoffs. They had a shot in the play-in. They fell to the Warriors. So you made the right decision by moving on to Cleveland, right? You got to the conference finals. But again, it doesn't amount to nothing when you're averaging 16 points in the Eastern Conference Finals, shooting below 35% from the field and 20% from three, and less than almost 70% from the free throw line when the guy is a career 88% free throw shooter. I just don't understand where we go from prime Harden in the regular season to now playoff James. Where's the disconnect? And mentally, something is not clicking. And then we get to the post-game interviews. I feel like I played well. I feel like I did. I gave it all defensively. Brother, the way Jalen Brunson was hunting you down as the Knicks evaporated that 22-point lead in game one, at some point you got to take it amongst yourself and have some damn pride. I'm not going to allow this guy to pick on me. At least have the effort to show that you refuse to be picked on. Because every hooper knows that is a terrible feeling to be the guy that is the weakest defender on the court and people are constantly attacking you. Granted, a lot of those times it's the best offensive player, which he was a lot in his prime. But since he's not, that defensive prowess it stands out more than when he was in his prime, dropping elite numbers on the offensive end. So honestly, I don't know where Harden goes from here. Does he look for a new team? Do he look for a new contract? That's ultimately what he probably wants to do. But at the end of the day, are you in it for rings or are you in it for the money? Let the people know it does. And honestly, I hope he gets another shot to win a title, but it doesn't seem like he's going to get that opportunity. And as it is for Donovan Mitchell, you're now paired along another All-Star and you're coming up short. Granted, the past All-Stars you've been paired up with probably were the lower end, with that being Rudy Gobert, Darius Garland of recently. But it seems like to me that with Donovan Mitchell's career, his playing style is not sufficient for championship basketball. Because yes, you get buckets and bunches, but you do not elevate the team around you. And we saw that in the forefront in this Eastern Conference Finals. Donovan Mitchell's game is just empty calorie buckets. What do you mean by that, Coop? Well, it's like chips and beer, empty calories, right? I'm never really getting really drunk on beer, and I'm never really getting full eating a bag of potato chips. But the calorie count goes through the roof. Yet, if I keep drinking beer and eating potato chips, I never actually get drunk or I never actually get full, but I do get fat. Empty calories. The buckets come in bunches, but they don't really amount to anything. Empty calorie buckets. Now, he's had some help in the past, but since you got a future Hall of Famer by your side, this is the first time that you've elevated your team to the conference finals. I don't think that is ironic. Harden played decent enough in the first two rounds to help get you there. He had a few 30-point games against Detroit and also in the first round, but somewhat disappeared here in this conference final. Again, you're going to get 25 to 30 points a night. You may go down as one of the highest career scoring averaging guards in the history of this NBA, but what will it amount to? Probably empty calories. Unfortunately, we have guys like that throughout the course of the NBA, and I hate to compare him to a guy like Carmelo Anthony, but it seems like the game and the career path may be similar, unfortunately. Donovan Mitchell is an excellent player, but I don't know if he is the guy to lead your team to a championship. It doesn't seem like it. Because again, the buckets come in bunches, but you don't elevate your teammates around you. Harden was doing so when he was in his prime. Not only was he leading the league in scoring, but he's leading the league in assists as well, bringing more to the table. Now, with that being said, I don't know how Cleveland rebuilds here because they were provided a decent roster and they just came up short. But that leads me to the Knicks because they did what they were supposed to do coming into this playoff run. They dominated everyone in front of them, including the Hawks, including this Cavalier team, and they have won 11 straight games since that Hawks series. This has been one of the more dominant finals runs that we've seen in quite some time, probably since the 73 win Warriors team. And before that, Shaq and Kobe in 2001. We haven't seen a team blow through the playoffs like the Knicks have, and then doing it at such a high fashion where they're blowing teams out almost on a gamely basis. Now, we'll say this. New York's already on fire for them making it back to the finals since '99. If they win the finals, get out. New York City will be a war zone, and they may burn it down. The fans are that passionate, and they're that rowdy, and they're that prepared to do whatever it takes to celebrate this Knicks championship run. And it would be the first championship from a New York City sports team probably since the Yankees here in 2009. It will be a amazing feat if the Knicks could win the finals. But ultimately, me and most of the other people think the winner out of the Western Conference Finals, which is Game 5 tonight, as of this recording, will be ultimately the next NBA champion, whether that being Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs or Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City Thunder. Because the de facto champion is going to, it seems like it's going to put away the Knicks quite easily. Let me tell you why. Let's say, for example, they come away with the Oklahoma City Thunder as a matchup in the finals. Do you really think Jalen Brunson is going to be able to guard Shea Alexander one-on-one or even as a team effort? I know more than likely they're going to have probably Mikal Bridges or Anunoby on Shea and rotate them and have Brunson checking maybe a Lou Dort or something like that. Even on the perimeter, he might be okay, but there's no way in hell Jalen Brunson's going to stop Lou Dort if he's posting him up and backing him down. You still have Karl Anthony Towns, great player, can get buckets and rebounds in bunches, but still at year 9, 10, or whatever he's in, cannot stay away from the silly-ass fouls. And you want to tell me that the finesse of Chet Holmgren, the physicality of Hartenstein, those two alone are going to get 2 quick fouls on Karl Anthony Towns, and he'll be riding the bench more than he'll probably actually impacting the game in a series like this. And the same goes for him against a guy like Victor Wembanyama on the other side. You're talking about 2 teams in the Western Conference that play elite defense and great team chemistry and share the ball with one another. And it doesn't matter who's hot that night for either team. They know when to feed who and when to get the job done. So ultimately, I do think whoever wins this Western Conference Finals will be our de facto champion moving forward. Granted, the last 2 times the Knicks were in the finals, they did lose. 99, they lost to the Spurs, and then in 94, they lost to the Houston Rockets. And I think ultimately this 3rd time makes the charm, and they lose again in the finals to whoever comes out of the West, whether that be the Spurs or the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I ultimately didn't think the Spurs would be. Well, I wouldn't say that they wouldn't make the conference finals, but I don't think that they would be a true championship contender because they're such a young team and they haven't won together yet. They're still trying to figure out how to win, not only in playoff games, but in championship games down the stretch. But they're coming together quickly with the prowess of a young coach and Mitch Johnson, who was raised and coached to coach by one of the wisest guy in NBA history, Greg Popovich, who still probably has his hand on this team in some form or fashion. And we cannot take that for granted. The Spurs have Keldon Johnson, also, although he's been playing somewhat mediocre here in this conference finals, 6th man of the year. Stephon Castle is a certified dog. Dylan Harper, the young rookie, has been dominating in his role, but we worry about De'Aaron Fox and that sprained right ankle. Because it's clear that the Spurs need some additional ball handling on the floor. Stephon Castle has been elevated into a de facto point guard role, and he's turned the ball over tremendously. He's averaging, I think, close to double-digit turnovers in each of the 4 games of this series. And for some reason, on the other side, Chet Holmgren wants zero smoke with the alien that is Victor Wembanyama. It's been all Hardenstein posting up, pushing him out of the paint, and trying to make him as ineffective as possible. But it's kind of hard when the guy is 7'5" and he has an 8-foot wingspan and can reach and practically can just dunk on his tippy toes. If he elevates his arms out to here, his presence is a presence on defense. That's what Kanye was. My presence is a present. I just got the gift. And surely Victor Wembanyama has that gift. Not only on the defensive end, but on the offensive end as well, where he can expand his game out to the three-point line, half court as the buzzer beater, posting up, fading away, rebounding. There is no weakness to his game so far. And he's ultimately my early MVP candidate for next season, because him losing out this year to Shea, and not even him, but he was in third place to Nikola Jokic, who averaged a triple-double this year. And rightfully so, Victor Wembanyama came in third, but a unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. So that shows you not only that is he dominating on the defensive side, but the offense is coming into fruition as well. And it's already here. He was averaging, I believe, 24 points and like 12 rebounds or something like that for the season. And I think the best of Victor Wembanyama is yet to come. But I don't know if he plays long enough to where he's one of the best players ever, unfortunately, because guys who are super tall like that end up leaving the game somewhat early because of the stress on the joints and the ligaments and the play over a period of time. You look at guys like Manute Bol, Yao Ming, the guys who are just extremely tall just don't last as long as we think that they should here in the NBA. So we want to see the dominance from Victor as early and often as possible, because we really don't know how long it may last. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to marvel in the greatness as we have it. And it will be short-lived for some reason. I just have a sneaky suspicion that it may not last that long. But we have to enjoy it while it's here. And I think we've been spoiled as NBA fans because LeBron has played 22 years and has been the best player to do so for those years. And we get used to guys playing 14, 15 years and dominating a majority of those. Marvel in the greatness while you have it. That's all I will say. So the Knicks are in the finals. I believe the Spurs will meet them there, but we'll see. Either way, I have whoever comes out of the West winning it all. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. It's going to be a fun ride to this NBA Finals and beyond. And it's going to be an even hectic offseason with several superstars in limbo, including the aforementioned James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron, and possibly Kevin Durant, and many more in free agency. Not in free agency, but in trades. As teams look to, like the Wizards, look to rebuild expeditiously with their draft picks, and Houston Rockets maybe trying to build some more team chemistry and hopefully add an additional point guard, because bringing back 35-year-old Steven Adams and a 32-year-old, 33-year-old Van Vliet is not the answer to your problems. Trust me. You guys enjoy. Great talking to you.